Alright, hey everybody. Today we're going to be talking about Jedi, and I'm currently doing a voiceover over some clips I took a while back. I'm going to be tanking crate dragons and kind of showing how my build holds up against that. I'm running the Guardian set, I'm running critical rate reduction, crit, and glancing blow, and agility, luck, precision base stats. Now, I'm running critical rate reduction, glancing blow, and crit because I didn't have any exotics laying around with anything more specific. Now you can also see I'm running 32% glancing blow, 26% dodge, and pretty close to 50% crit chance, which is ideally what you'd want to be aiming for. Um, but yeah, I didn't have any glancing blow melee or glancing blow ranged shirts or exotics laying around. So this is what I ran. Critical rate reduction doesn't benefit you at all in PvE, but it's what I had. So ideally, you'd want glancing blow melee for these guys, but it is what it is. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go and grab 3 crate dragons. That's about what I can somewhat comfortably tank. And something you need to notice is I take a lot of damage. You know, it is what it is. Crate dragons hit really, really hard. And they also put a nice action dot on you, which is not very cool. And they also put a damage debuff on you as well. So they're really not particularly fun for Dark Side Jedi, and I accidentally picked up a fourth one here. So this is it doesn't go very well. I'm gonna be honest with you, but I didn't feel like doctoring the clip or taking it out or anything like that. So I just kind of deal with it. But there's a little bit of kiting involved, and I'm also making sure to be fully buffed here, and I'm running the crit meditation buff, and I do have stims, but this is all stuff you could get in Mos Eisley whenever you wanted. So this is how you kind of should be decked out when you're coming out to do crate dragons. I think I am going to have to kite a little bit here in a second. But yeah, I like this build, and it's the same build that I've posted on the forums because it gives you a nice bit of offense and a nice bit of defense. And when you're playing a dark side Jedi especially, this is really important because if you're looking to tank as a dark side Jedi, even if you're using the Guardian set, you get a natural reduction to the amount of aggro generation. So you need to be able to do a little bit more damage to be able to hold aggro on things. Now, if it's just one target, that's not going to be the case. And I did lose aggro here, but I go and I grab them back immediately. Um, yeah, you need to be able to do a decent bit of damage to be able to keep aggro on particularly multiple things at once. If you're dealing with just one mob, it's not a problem because you can just Guardian Strike them and everything's fine. But if you're dealing with multiple targets, you need to be able to be doing enough damage to hold aggro on all of them. Particularly if you have things like a commando, for instance, in your party. They're going to put down a lot of damage, they're going to stack a lot of dots, and you're probably going to have a real tough time. So just having that little bit of extra damage output is going to help you maintain aggro a little bit better. Also, if you're dealing with like an officer or something that should be in every kind of PvE group that you run, uh, they have a high chance of taking aggro as well. And they just spawned another one on top of me. I was having a great time while filming this. Okay, great time. Was really enjoying it. Um, yeah, I don't usually hunt crate dragons to be honest. But yeah, whenever you're doing any type of PvE content as a dark side Jedi, by the way, you want to prioritize your drains and you want to prioritize your saber block. Those are your main two. And then you also want to prioritize keeping your force choke on the main target. This is going to keep the debuff on them. That's a 20% damage reduction all the time on that one target, particularly if you're fighting the boss for a particular, like an instance or something. You definitely want to be putting force choke on them all the time. If you're fighting multiple monsters, then you're going to want to focus on getting your maelstroms out. But you need to be aware that when you are maelstroming, you need to be aware of what's behind what you're shooting. I've run instances with a lot of different groups, and I see it all the time. They just start throwing their maelstroms and their shockwaves all over the place, and they're picking up stuff we didn't want to pick up. Just be aware of what it's a cone. it's a cone ability. You need to be aware of what's behind what you're shooting at so that you don't grab a whole bunch of stuff that your group might not want to take at that moment in time. Particularly if you're doing like ISD or something and you've got the grenadiers, not all groups feel comfortable just pulling uh, the entire, for instance, the entire corridor with all the grenadiers before I think it's the second or the third boss. You may not want to pull that entire corridor. So there's just instances where you need to be aware that your abilities are cone on a Dark Side Jedi and just try not to pull everything. Yeah, but as you can see now that I've gotten the numbers down by like one or so, it balances out. Everything's fine, and now I'm taking very little damage. It's just when you have like 3 or 4 of the crate dragons on you, it becomes a bit of an issue. But also another thing you need to understand is that this game is really RNG focused. So when you see people say like this is the best build to run, take it with a grain of salt. There's a very specific reason that I haven't said that my builds are the best. And I ask people all the time, or people ask me all the time, Galv, what's the best build for this or that? Or the truth is that there's not really a best build per se. Um, Things are going to outperform other things in particular scenarios, and it is what it is. Now, like I said earlier, I try to give builds that are going to be very versatile, that are going to give you a lot of options. That's why I go with builds that are offense and defense based instead of being just one or just the other. I try to make sure that you guys can hold aggro, you guys can tank, you guys can do what you need to do. And especially when you're playing a Dark Side Jedi, it's really important to be able to get crits on your drains because those are huge. It's a big help. So I don't like the idea of not running any crit chance in your build or going just straight defense, which a lot of people tell you to do in PvE, and I just don't think that's a particularly good thought process. It's not necessarily bad. It's not going to fail you at all. Like you're going to be fine. But I just think having that little bit of extra offense, that little bit of extra crit is really going to help you. And they just keep spawning more, don't they? But yeah, as you can see, the kills are coming in just fine. I'm tanking just fine. Everything's cool. And that's with running. In this video, I was running 2 glancing blow and 1 crit hit pup, and I got up to 32 glancing blow, and I got 50% crit out of it. So, like, this is completely fine. The build works just fine. I think it's a great starting build for anybody. Now, the other nice thing, though, to consider is that when you're dealing with group content, you won't have to worry about your action so much. When I'm doing this solo, I of course have to worry about my action a lot, and it really sucks. There's a couple instances where I've run out of action, but it is what it is. All right, so now I'm going to be talking a little bit about Light Side Jedi. Now, we're doing the same test as we did with the Dark Side Jedi. I'm just going to be running around killing crates again. Still using the same suit, the Agility, Luck, Precision suit, critical crit reduction, crit, glancing. Obviously, this is still not the ideal, but it's, once again, what I had available, so that's what I'm running. I think I was running 2 glancing blow, which got me up to 38% glancing blow, and then I ran the 1 crit for 38 crit. In hindsight, probably should have went with 2 crit, 1 glancing, got a little bit more crit chance out of it, but it's fine. It works. It worked just fine. So something you are going to notice is that the Light Side Jedi is definitely tankier. It does a better job of holding up against multiple enemies. That's their strength in PvE. They work really, really well for that. But you're also going to notice that I do less damage than the Dark Side Jedi does. Definitely do less damage, but I do, as far as being a tank, I do a better job. The problem is, and this is the problem, the big problem with Light Side Jedi right now, is that that doesn't actually matter. Dark Side Jedi can tank just fine. They can tank multiple things just fine, especially if they use a Guardian set. The Light Side Jedi needs to be running a little bit more DPS so that they can essentially compete. because when it comes down to it, most of the content in this game is easily cleared, including instances. And so, because that's the case, anybody who wants to tank should be running some damage. Because you have to ask yourself, why would they take me when they could take somebody else who does what I do and does damage on top of that? Perfect example being commandos, frontman's commandos. They can tank really well. They also put down 3, 4, 5k damage, DPS. So yeah, you definitely want to have some crit so that you can do some damage numbers and you're bringing a little bit more to your party. Um, as for a few things that I've seen in the community when I've been doing instance runs, I've noticed that a lot of people who are playing Light Side Jedi are using their Saber Block and Saber Reflect at the same time. Please stop. Don't do that. So you want to do them. You want to pop your Saber Block. That's going to give you some nice tankiness. So you want to pop that first, and then when that fades, then you want to use your Saber Reflect, because your Saber Reflect is really more of an offensive cooldown. So if you do it like that, then you're going to do a lot more damage when your Saber Reflect is up and your Saber Block is down, which is really what you want out of your Saber Reflect. If you pop your Saber Reflect while your Saber Block is up, you're essentially shooting yourself in the foot, because your Saber Reflect only procs if you get hit. Your Saber Block stops you from being hit so much. So you definitely want to pop those at different times. And I tend to think of them as like phases. So you use your Saber Block for your tanking phase, and then you use your Saber Reflect for your DPS phase. And you just keep doing one after the other and just keep swapping them out, and it works great. And your damage will go up by like a factor of 2 or so when you pop your Saber Reflect. So it's great. Yeah, you definitely want to use that as like an offensive cooldown. Another thing, you'll notice that I have 2 heals on my bar. I think that all Light Side Jedi should be doing this. So you put your rank 4, your 10k heal on your bar somewhere. That needs to be thought of as more of like an emergency heal. You then want to put like your rank 3 heal on your bar as well. It's got a shorter cooldown, and it heals for like 7,500. Yeah, it's really nice. It's really important. It'll let you have a little bit more consistent healing, while also letting you still have that 10k heal on your bar. So if you need that, you can do that if you're desperate, you know. But yeah, as you can see, I do plenty of damage. These things die just fine, and I didn't really take all that much damage either. It does great. Um, there's of course going to be situations where you could be running other things and they're going to work better. But the reason I suggest the builds that I do is that they're really versatile, and I think that that's really important, particularly for new players, which is a large part of the reason that I made the guide, was that we had new players coming out or coming into the game, and they wanted to figure this stuff out, and I saw them asking a lot of questions. So yeah, I really recommend my builds, at least because they're versatile. Alright, so that pretty much concludes the video. Hopefully I answered some questions and kind of showed that at least the builds work, which is really the intent of this video, as I have seen a couple comments here and there that seemed a little skeptical. But yeah, the builds, they work fine. If they can get you to kill crate dragons, I'm sure they can be perfectly acceptable in a in a PvE group. So yeah, I hope you all have a great day. Good luck out there.